Hello everyone, my name is Behrendt. I'm a member here at Sage, and right now we are in the Creative Corner. Nice little space for artists to come by and do some artwork, which I'm going to do for you today. Alright, but a little bit about myself. Like I said, my name is Behrendt. I reside from Lushu, Wisconsin, and I do have some background in art. I graduated from University of Stevens Point with a bachelor's degree in studio arts around 2019, and I am currently enrolled at the UW Green Bay program for my teaching license, which I'm about in my last semester, so that's going pretty well. So what do I got here for you today? Well, today I got my color compositions on black. It's a series that I've been doing since 2018, and as you can see here, it's color on black. The one that has been picked for this Artist of the Month gallery session is my color composition number 3 on black. And I have a little bit more features right here so you guys can get kind of an idea about what I do with my paintings. I do mainly my paintings on oil. I do more of a dry brush technique when I do mine. So you can kind of see on these layers right here, it doesn't look very wet, it's very kind of soft and faded, and I can show you how that is done once we get to the demonstration. All right, so my inspiration, I'm gonna put this little guy right here. I'm a big fan of very abstract, I like to call abstract type 2, so that's total abstraction. That is lack of subject matter that you will see when you create art. There's a feeling that everyone has in there, and they were really going at that feeling of like creating colors, shapes, and forms. So that's why they kind of got away from using subject matter, because they saw subject matter as almost a bias. It's like, so here's a picture of a horse. People who like horses are going to be naturally drawn to it. But if we just have basic shapes and colors and these primitive symbols that you can see that I got on this little painting right here, you can really start seeing what these guys were going after. And I really appreciate what they were doing at that time. Like I said, this is during like the 1920s, 1915s. So they were really, in my mind, up way above their time. If you have any time, I would definitely take time to look into it and maybe do some research on it. Alright guys, now I'm going to demonstrate to you how I create one of my color compositions on blacks. This will be composition number 12, so I'm excited to create it here within this space. But first, let's talk about artist block. We all get that artist block where it's like, you look at it and you're wondering, oh, what am I going to do? This is a blank canvas, I have no idea what's going on. Well, a really great habit that I get into, and I probably got about 5 to 6 sketchbooks that are just full, is just do some sketches. It's really simple, it's easy. If you have ever some off time, if you're on break at work, take out your sketchbook and really just kind of sketch away. For me, when it comes to abstraction, I just start drawing shapes and I just organize them into different compositions. But like, oh, maybe I want a square here, maybe we'll put a rectangle, add some more like slashes in that, kind of get excited in there, but you do what you do because it's your work and that's what we're here for. Alright, so what do I got behind me? So I got a nice little canvas board right here, and what I did before I came here is that I prepped it up with applying some black gesso. So if you don't know what gesso is, it's kind of a primer for your canvas. So then the paint doesn't eat away at it because it is a fibrous material. So we want to make sure we prime our canvases very well. I did black on mine. If you want to go more of a cheap end, I know that you can use acrylic paint as well if you want to achieve kind of a similar effect. But you want to be careful when using acrylic and oil together, because you can put acrylic down on your board and then you put oil paint on there. But if you do the reverse, you see that the acrylic paint will start peeling away from the oil paint. And that is very dramatic, that's very bad. Once you put it on, the acrylic will dry and you start getting these kind of pasty kind of things. And that's not what we're looking for. We're looking for acrylic and then oil. That's what we're going to be doing. So when I got over here, this is a neat little board that I picked up at University of Stevens Point when I was, I think maybe a sophomore or a junior. It is a nice little organizational color board. So once you find your paints that you really like, say you picked, well, I think mine is, what is it, Winsmer, something like that, or you find out acrylic paint, even acrylic paint that you really like, I recommend that you make a little painting chart. It shows you all the different types of tints as well as different types of shades, and you can see the different combinations of what you can do ahead of time. So by creating a board like this, you can have a visual representation of the colors that you can easily mix. It's a neat little handy tool that I use quite often when painting my compositions. So now that we talked about how do we prep our canvas, and we also talked a little about organizing our colors by using a color chart that I made. I'm now going to talk more closely about the type of tools that I got with me today. All right, so right here I got a nice little palette knife. You might recognize it as one of those Bob Ross palette knives. I was a Bob Ross fan as a kid, so this thing has been passed down maybe about 6-7 years now. So this thing serves me well. I really like the flexibility on it. It's very easy to pick up the paint and mix it well. I found other knives. I think I got one over here actually. There we go, kind of like this, to be not very as consistent for me. It's very good if you really want like an impasto, that's a lot of paint on your canvas. But like I said before, we're doing more of a dry brush method where we're not going to be using too much paint. So not only are we kind of saving money, but we're also using our materials wisely too. So I'm going to put this little guy away. And what else do I got? Another big handy tool that I like is usually about a 6-inch ruler. These are little metal rulers. This is how I am able to develop sharp edges on my works of art. Without this little guy, it would pretty much just be blotches, and we really want it. We're looking for a nice clean cut to use that I use, as well as form, shape, color, contrast, all those good elements and principles that we get into. Other things I got here, we got a nice little 1-inch thick brush. I mainly use this brush. I rarely ever use any smaller brushes. If I'm working with smaller canvases, however, like the one I pulled up earlier, those I will use smaller brushes because it's just a smaller canvas. You got to use that. And those brushes are over there in my little handmade cup right there. Otherwise, the last couple brushes I got a detailer. I mainly use this for highlights. So let's say we want to have like a sun coming down in our work. We want a light source. There we go, that's the word. So the light source, we add our little highlights there, we get our little shades here. It's just a nice little thing to add a little more depth to our paintings. And last but not least, I have one more, and it's my reliable old fan brush. The fan brush I use greatly. This is probably my oldest brush that I bought by myself. I probably was maybe 11 years old when I bought this. So this guy's gone with me quite some time, and it's really nice to have it. So what I'm going to be doing now, I'm going to prep, the canvas is all prepped. I went through all the materials we got, the paints I am using. I'm not going to tell you all the colors, that's way too much work. But we are now going to go ahead and start painting. Let's get at some painting. So what I like to do is I like to step away from the paint first and really kind of dance with it. You really want to see what you want to do. I know there's nothing on there yet and you might look kind of silly, but that's okay because it's just me and you right now and we're just going to start painting. So I'm thinking we can add a little bit, so maybe let's add a little square right there. Now we got to pick our colors. So I'm looking over here. My palette that I usually like to do are these aquamarines, these blues, and some of these greens right over here. And those really do contrast well with, I think, a little more of this red palette right here, as you can see in some of the other paintings that I did. So I'm just going to start mixing some colors up. I'll tell you what I'm doing. So I'm looking at, let's go with the cerulean blue. I'll be this little guy right here. A little bit of cerulean blue in there. Let's add some vermilion green, I believe. Yes, it is. A little bit of you. We're going to mix a little bit up. Okay, so I'm not going to pick up too much paint. I'm lightly brushing the brushes against the paint just to pick up a very little bit. I'm going to pick the kind of corner that I want to do. I like working on an easel because I believe you have to, like I said before, interact with the canvas. So we're going to put, let's do a nice little corner piece. I want to move this guy right here, something like that. And just lightly take your ruler, put it on the edge so it's flat against the canvas, and start making just small strokes. I want to pull it away. I hope the camera is able to see that. If it can, you can see I'm already started like a nice little shape right here. And the beautiful thing about a black canvas, which I just absolutely love, is that it naturally will add in the shade. So you can start out strong, like I'm doing on the corner, because when you're against the ruler, that's going to be your strongest color. And you can kind of differentiate how you want the gradient of the shade to go which way. So now that I made that mark, I'm going to continue and I'm going to pull it a little bit away from my ruler. So I'm touching the ruler and I'm pulling away. This will add a little bit more of a nice shade gradient. We're going to get a little more thickness on there, then we can move on to a different color. The nice thing about doing the dry brush method, by like not filling up the brush too much, at least I call it dry brush method, I don't know what the professionals do. I like just saying the dry brush method because you're not really taking too much paint. Let's get that nice thick line right there. There we go. Brush it off a little bit. You can just rub off the excess because we use very little paint. And you know what, let's get something going on somewhere else. Let's go with a little bit of, we're thinking, oh, I see a good one right here. We're looking at this yellow with another vermilion green. Keeping it more in the cool color range, I think, with this one. So let's grab those little guys, vermilion green right here. Grab a little bit of yellow. do a little bit of mixing, and you'll get the hang of mixing once you get used to it. Now I took those two colors, the yellow and vermilion green. I'm going to add just a little bit of white to it to lighten it up. This will give us a nice little pastel color that I like to say. You know what, I always do red stripes. I think we're going to do a big, yeah, let's do that. Let's put a nice little stripe right here. Just lightly put it against that edge. You want the ruler to be sitting nice and flat. Lightly bring it up. Almost use a little too much paint there. You can start to see where it's kind of going down. We're going to slide it down because this is going to be coming along. There we go. Now what do we see? What do we want to do on the other side? I want to add a little more green. We're going to have a little darker edge so we have the same kind of color palette. Let's get this little guy right here. A little more green. Oh, we can even pick up a little bit of color that we made in the previous one. There we go. A little darker green. Let's pick that little guy up. There we go. And we want it flatter. Let's try to keep it somewhat the same width. Yeah, that looks good. Now the thing about my technique is with using oil too, you're gonna be going through a lot of layers. So when I do my paintings, I pretty much paint maybe 3 to 4 shapes, and then I will wait for it to dry, so maybe about 3 weeks to 2 weeks, depending on if you use any dryant, and I will come back to it. And you just keep repeating the process over and over again until you have a really nice composition. And don't be afraid if you can't get it at the first time. It's something that you gotta take used to, and that's why I'm here with you and showing you how I do it. So I really hope that you appreciate, and I'm happy to have this time here with you. And I'm gonna continue painting, so hopefully you see this on maybe the Sage website, but definitely on my Facebook. So see you guys.